Good morning, everybody. This is Jeremy with Double J Farms Homestead. Hope you're doing well. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. And just wanted to come to you with a little country theology this morning, and I hope this will help somebody. The Lord laid it on my heart yesterday, and I've studied and tried to research what I could and try to bring this kind of word that I believe is from Him for somebody. And it may just be for me, and that's okay too. But just wanted to come to you, ask you to stick through us till the end, and we'd appreciate it. I went out last night. It was about dark, or maybe a little after dark, to feed Nelson. And I think in my 48 years, it was the first time that I ever remember frogs hollering on Thanksgiving. But it warmed up yesterday, and it's warm this morning here. And I'm thankful for that, to be honest with you. And you say, well, why? It's supposed to be cold Thanksgiving. Well, that's true, but I want to tell you something. As high as things cost this year to put up, hay was the most expensive this year. Fertilizer was the most expensive that I ever remember. You see, in these warm days, the cattle, they won't eat near as much. So, you know, they that high dollar hay, it stretches a whole lot in these warmer days. And I'll be honest with you, I'm thankful for that. So it'll get cold, I know, but I'm gonna be thankful for these warm days because it slows them down tremendously, and that's a good thing, I promise you. I want to talk today a little bit about the stories behind our scars. And I don't know of many people that don't have a scar of some kind, whether it be physical or emotionally or even spiritually. We all have scars. And I'm sorry I'm shaky, I'm weak. But maybe it won't be too bad. Every scar tells a story. I've got scars all over my body. When I first got out of high school, I wanted to be a meat cutter. And I did that until my health started going south and started having trouble and that kind of thing. But I've got scars on my hands where when I'd be cutting meat, the knife would slip or something, and even got one scar where another fella's knife slipped and we were standing too close at the table and his knife hit me. We all have scars. I've got a scar, it's over one of my eyes, right here. I've got a scar right here that when I was a little boy, I never will forget it. I was in the bed of my daddy's pickup and he was backing it in the garage, and I thought he was stopped. The tailgate was down, and I went to get out. He wasn't done backing up. And he come on back, and when it did, I was standing up behind the truck. Well, it knocked me flat of the dirt and busted my head up here. Of course, Daddy jumped out and found me on the ground, and he said, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And I said, yeah, I'm all right. Blood just pouring. And then the old country daddy kicked in. He said, well, you ought to not got out of the truck until I was stopped and it was turned off. Well, he was right, but I was little and I didn't know him better. This finger right here, if you can see it, but I remember when I was a little boy, we was unloading grain, and it was an old dump truck, and at the back it had a little hole that had like a chicken house. If you've ever been around the old chicken houses, the old curtains had a crank and had a spring in it. Well, it pulled that metal door up, had the auger running, and Daddy was in the grain room, and I was on the outside. I think I was 5'6" at the most. I was real small. I never will forget. I had a blue shirt on with a big black bull on the front of it, and I had an old pine strip that I was raking the oats down up in that little hole. Well, I was just raking away to get the truck empty for it to slide down into that auger to get it into the grain room. Well, as I had my hand kind of positioned like this on the stick. And at some point, that cable broke and my hand was just right under it. Well, that metal thing came down and chopped the end of my finger off. Well, I reached down and picked it up. I never will forget this. I was barefooted, and I tore running off up the hill towards the house, and Daddy hollered, and he said, "Where are you going? Where are you going? Come back here." I said, "I'm going to get a Band-Aid." And he said, let me see. And I never will forget it. My daddy's a big, strong man, still is to be 81 years old. And I remember opening my little hand, and I remember seeing the color drain from my daddy's face. And I knew then something was wrong. See, even as a little boy, I thought a Band-Aid would fix it. I never will forget it. My sister Sharon had a little two-door silver Chevrolet Chevette. And Daddy wrapped up my hand in an old red handkerchief he pulled out of his back pocket. And I remember him calling my mother. She was working at Pinehurst. And he said, "Meet me at the emergency room." And Daddy got me in there and he said, "You hold tight to that little finger." I said, "Okay." And at this point, I still had never shed a tear because we were just raised that way. You be tough. So I still hadn't cried. And I held that end of that finger. And there was one little piece of skin holding it, and it was just a flopping. We flew in down there to the emergency room. He gave that little Chevrolet Chevette what for going down the road. I don't know if it ever had the soot blowed out of it, but let me tell you something, it got blowed out that day. And we went flying down the road and pulled into the emergency room. Mother was waiting, and we went in there, and I can remember the nurse telling me, she said, "I've got to deaden your finger." And the only time I cried is right between my fingers there. She stuck a needle down between them fingers. And I can remember breaking down, but I couldn't help it. It was tender and it hurt. See, I've got a scar. I can remember when a cow hurt me. And I had 3 different ones put me in the hospital. But the last one, she liked to kill me. And I can remember they told me, they said, "Mr. Moore," the day, like just minutes before they took me to the operating room. I'd been in there about a week and a half so they could build me up to get strong because I was too weak and from the damage. And just minutes before they rolled me into the operating room, these 2 doctors come in. Well, one of them, I knew who he was. He was the one that had been looking at my spine and the damage. But there was another doctor with him, and I remember him saying, he said, "Now, Mr. Moore, this is Dr. So-and-so," I can't remember his name now, but he said, "He's going to be handling your internal organs." And I thought, what in the world are you talking about? You told me you was going to operate on my back. Well, little I know, I was fixing to find just out what he was talking about. He said, "The trauma's too bad. We cannot go in from the back." He said, "We're going to have to cut you open down the front and move your internal organs around so we can get to your spine." And I immediately thought, now that's going to hurt. And I remember coming out of surgery, they worked on me, I don't know, several hours. And I remember when I came to, they had me in a room, and I can remember 2 things especially. I remember touching myself and feeling the bandage. And this is kind of funny, but I told my wife at the time, I said, I just fell all the way down, and as far as that bandage went. And she said, I told her that I held up my finger and did like this, and she said, you said, well, honey, they didn't like but about that much of making me a girl. They'd cut me that far down. I remember that, and I remember one other thing. Before the surgery, the doctor said, he said, we're going to open you up. And he said, there's an internal skin in there. He said, just like a chicken. He said, we're going to cut through that skin to get to that protection. We're going to cut through it to get to your organs. And for about 6 or 8 months, I could not eat chicken after the surgery. But to this day, I still have a very big scar down the front of me. And it reminds me of that surgery. Just like this scar on my head reminds me of the old truck, and scars on my hands remind me of cutting meat. Those scars, they tell a story. Every one of them. And I know y'all got scars too. But you know, with a scar, it does 2 things. It heals that wound. There may be some scar tissue, some abnormalities there. But a scar tells a story of healing. That's true with all of us. But there's some scars we have that maybe emotionally and spiritually and that kind of thing. I know personally, I've been hurt by church folks, and people that I never thought would hurt me have hurt me. And those kind of scars we just have to give to the Lord. I've got friends that have been hurt by people that they thought were true blue, just as I have. And those kind of scars, you may can't see, but you know they're there. And we have to give those to the Lord. The Lord's the only one that can heal those scars. And the devil wants to bring it up constantly. But we just had to put him in his place. I have to do that a lot, especially since I've started this YouTube channel and trying to encourage folks. It's been unreal. But those scars, just as with our body, they do tell a story of healing. And see, those wounds may be gone, but those scars are still there. If you're struggling with somebody with hurt or pain, and there's a scar there that nobody can see, I promise you, the Lord sees it. We have to give it to Him, and He will help us. You know, you've heard the thing saying, time heals all wounds. I don't necessarily agree with that. I have some wounds that are as fresh today as they were years ago, even though they have healed over and then now they're scars. But that doesn't make them any less fresh. That's where we have to depend on the Lord to help us. And He will if we give it to Him. But thankfully, those wounds are healed. And those scars tell a story. And they also remind us of maybe tragedies or what have you. But there we can do one of 2 things. You can decide to dwell on it, or you can learn from it. And that's what I choose to do. I choose to learn from those scars. I remember the stories behind them, and thankful for them. even the painful ones, because we learned, we grew, and we learned to depend on the Lord to help us through them. So if you look over your body or your heart or your mind, and you think about scars, remember the story behind them, but remember where God brought you from through them. And I encourage you to grow through them. Don't dwell on them, but grow. And God will make the difference. So I hope this has helped you or encouraged you. I just felt like I need to share. Don't dismiss those scars. Remember the story behind them. And I promise you, you can grow and learn from them and get through them. But those scars are for a reason. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it'll encourage you. If you are new here, we welcome you. We try to do a little bit of everything on this channel. But if you haven't subscribed, I'd ask you to do so. And leave us a comment. Leave us a thumbs up. Y'all are helping our channel tremendously. And we appreciate you all. We love you. We pray for you. Some of you I've never met. Some of you I have. But when I pray for our YouTube family. Praying for God's blessings on you. And I'm praying for you, all those of you that have scars, that God will help you and get you through it. But don't forget that story behind them. We appreciate you. We love you. And keep watching. We'll have some more stuff coming. And like I say, like and share and subscribe if you haven't. And anything we've got that's been an encouragement to you, you think would help somebody, share it with them. It's just a little more country theology with Jeremy. So as I tell you all the time, you just keep loving on folks, keep serving folks, and keep bragging on Jesus. And I promise you, you'll get the blessing. Thank you so much.